Hello, everybody. My name is Alaina G. Levine, and I'm president of Quantum Success Solutions, and I'm also author of the multiverse best-selling book in 13 Parallel Dimensions, Networking for Nerds, which came out last year with Wiley. It's a true delight and an honor today to talk with you about what should I do with my life. This is something I'm still figuring out myself, and I want you to be aware of it too, because this is an important aspect of what we're doing. And what you can do in terms of planning your career. Now, for today's webinar, again, I just want to do a quick sound check. If you can hear me, just send me a quick note in the questions console so I know that we're good to go. And fantastic, thank you. Great, thank you so much, everybody. All right, so we're on the way, and what I want to do today is help you figure out what it is that you can do with your life, what it is you can do with your life right now to figure out what you want to do with your life now and later, and how you can plan for these types of things. And we will have questions, opportunity for questions at the end. And I want to thank my colleague and my sponsor and supporter of this type of effort, which is, of course, AGU and their AGU Career Center, and they're supporting this type of activity and professional development workshop. So our goals today, this is the methodology that we're going to take as we move forward in our presentation today, and also as we move forward in our life. We're going to look to explore, taste, experiment, plan, and do. So this is actually going to be the skeleton of every plan that and every decision that we make in the near future, and also as we go along our career. And I want to point out that this webinar today is not just for people who are early in their career. It's not just for people who are in the middle of their career. It's not just for people who are transitioning careers completely. And it's certainly not just for people who are in the senior level of their career or are later in life and want to change to a new career, a new job, or a new geography. This is inclusive for everybody. And the beauty of this methodology, the explore, taste, experiment, plan, and do method, is that you can actually implement this at any age, at any point in your life. And, you know, I know a lot of people who are old meaning older than 40, which is me. I'm 41. So people who are ancient, like myself, who are senior citizens, who are looking to create a new career for themselves, and they're implementing this type of strategy to explore, to taste, to experiment, to plan, to do, to see what it is that they want to do next in life. So it doesn't mean that you have to be 18 years old. It doesn't mean that you have to be 41. It doesn't mean that you have to be 65 or 95 or 105. This plan will work for you in all phases of your life. And that's what's so great about it. And you know what? If you're open to these different opportunities and the different types of things that you like to do in your life, you'll find that you can implement this type of strategy at any point in your career, which is so exciting. So now, first of all, before we implement this strategy, don't freak out on me, people. People of Earth and other nearby exoplanets, do not panic, okay? Do not panic if you don't know what you want to do with your life. Do not panic if you're thinking of changing careers, changing your life. If you think that you want to change your life, no reason to panic. The reason why we're not going to panic is, first of all, we're going to approach this like a problem. We're going to approach this like a problem that we know how to solve, that we have the capacity to solve, that we have the expertise to solve, because we've been studying science and engineering and mathematics and all sorts of other subjects. And even if you're not in STEM, and even if your degree was in another subject, you gain skills from that experience and from that subject that can help you approach this like a problem. So we're going to look at this as a problem. How can we solve this problem? I like to do X, but I'm not doing X right now. How can I solve that problem? Or I hate to do X and all I'm doing right now is X. How can I solve that problem? So the key to not panicking and the key to this type of problem solving is to be entrepreneurial. We need to look for problems that other people don't see, solutions that other people would never think of, and the results of those solutions. And here's the way you think about it. This is the sort of the metaphor that you can sort of use in your life as you start thinking about what you might want to do with your life. Okay, you're walking down the street. You're walking down the path, a path, right? An actual path. Maybe it's an actual sidewalk that has been laid out in front of you. Now, most people, when they walk that path, they just walk the path because it is physically in front of them. There are borders to that sidewalk, so they stay only on the sidewalk. They don't look to the left. They don't look to the right. They don't wonder, why is the sidewalk here? What is preventing me from moving to the left or the right? They just see a sidewalk and they see what's in front of them. That's what most people do. They just see what's in front of them, and then therefore they go towards that. But the reality is that there's actually a lot more on the outskirts of that sidewalk, on the outside of the borders of that path that you're on, that you could be actually accessing and creating opportunities for yourself within the context of those other areas. So typically what happens is the normal people, right? The normal people, they walk down the path and all they see is the path, but you're special. You're already thinking what else is out there. So you ask immediately, you say, why is this path here? What the heck is this path doing here? Who put this here? Why can't I move to the left or right? What is on the left? And maybe there's a wall. Maybe there's literally physically a wall to your left. Well, you ask because you've been trained to think about problems, because you've been educated to solve problems and seek out problems where other people don't even see problems. You say, I see this wall. I want to understand who put that there, why they put it there, how they put it there, what is that wall made of? What's on the other side of that wall? Why can't I walk on the other side of that wall? What's on the other side that I could potentially access? How can I knock that wall down? How can I make that wall crumble to pieces and then maybe recycle, upcycle, and resell the pieces into a new product that people will buy? This is the essence of taking an entrepreneurial perspective to our career. While other people will just walk the path that's in front of them because it's literally in front of them, you're going to take a different way. The way that you're going to look at it is you're always going to be looking to your left and right, up and below, in front, in back, all around you, in other dimensions, in other ecosystems, in other geographies. You're always going to keep an eye out and ask, where is the physical problem that can be solved? And what could I potentially do to solve that would provide value to a consumer in some way? If you take that approach, if you look for problems where other people just see borders, if you look for solutions where other people just see non-existent opportunities, you will be able to find opportunities for yourself, you'll be able to make opportunities for yourself, and quite honestly, you'll be able to build for yourself a blissful career, a career that provides you with success and joy and love and feeds and nurtures your soul as well as your skill set, as well as your brain, and gives you the challenges that you need to function. So if you think this way, this is where you can really create a disruption, not only in your own life and in a good way, but also, quite frankly, a disruption in the economy. I mean, if you come up with a revolution, an innovation that could potentially lead to a revolution, you've potentially even created your own job. And I want to talk to you about that later because that's actually what I did. I mean, I didn't create a revolution, but what I did was I created my own job. And I'll talk more about that later. But I do want to point out that you need to be patient. So we're not going to panic, but we're going to be patient because the dream job, the dream career, the dream organization, the dream field is out there, but you might not be able to access it this moment. You might not be able to access it next year. There might be certain things that you have to do to bring yourself forward to actually be able to go towards those opportunities or to take advantage of these opportunities or to even see those opportunities, right? And that's part of where networking comes in and self-promotion and some of the other techniques that I'm going to teach you today. But what the point is that if you are patient and you continue the hard work, the opportunities will come. And the opportunities will come because you're keeping your eyes open. And the idea here is that you may just have to create it yourself. So let me talk for a moment about myself, right? So I run a company. It's called Quantum Success Solutions. This is a platform. I use my company as a platform to provide career development and professional advancement services to mostly scientists and engineers, but I also work with non-nerds. So everybody's welcome to work with Alaina here. And this company, through this company, I do speaking, including the AGU fall meeting. I do writing for a number of different publications about career development for scientists and engineers and other professionals. I wrote a book, as you know, Networking for Nerds. I do private career consulting. I do event planning. Yes, if you have a wedding or a bar mitzvah coming up, please tweet me because I can do that as well. I've actually organized conferences, technical conferences, as well as gala fundraising events and other types of things like that. And I'm also a performer. I'm what's called a corporate comedian. So, you've been laughing at my jokes today, right? Because they're absolutely hysterical and totally clever. And you're on the seat of you're on the edge of your seat because you're so excited. What's Alaina going to say next? And this is part of my brand, this is part of my promise of value, is that when you interact with me through my company, through my job, you will get comedy, you will get humor. That's, of course, dedicated specifically to my audience and customized specifically to my audience of nerds and non-nerds too. And so I've done all these things, and I've built this company out of nothing. And of course, when I graduated, and my degree was in mathematics, by the way, and I have another degree in anthropology, when I graduated with my math degree, do you think that anybody ever told me, hey, Alaina, guess what? You could be an entrepreneur, you could be a comedian, and you could also be a writer, and you could be a career consultant and professional speaker, and you could plan bar mitzvahs. Nobody ever told me that. That wasn't even in the, that wasn't even in my view. I didn't even know that I could do that. But what happened was I did everything that I'm going to tell you to do today, that entire plan, and that allowed me to create my own job. And slowly but surely, I created multiple jobs for myself, and that's when I realized that I had a company that I could actually wrap around it and help me to serve. It would help me to serve as a platform for me to do all of these different tasks that I really, really enjoy, including speaking with you today. So the idea here is we're going to be entrepreneurial. We're going to look for opportunities. We're going to look for problems that we can solve, solutions that we can provide, value that we can inject. And if we have to create it ourselves, then that's why not. All the more better. That's, that's fantastic. And this explore, taste, experiment, plan, do strategy can and should be incorporated into your entire life's plan. And quite frankly, although I'm talking about career development in the context of this strategy, really you could use this for anything you really wanted to do, any sort of life choice as well, I suspect. What I wanted to let you know, and this goes back to the idea of the don't panic part of my talk, is that the reality is that people change careers, jobs, ecosystem sectors, organizations, and geographies much more than you think. So a lot of people think that if I graduate with a degree in mathematics, that the only thing I can do is mathematics, or the only thing that I'm prepared for to do is mathematics, or the only career that I could possibly access is one based in mathematics, where I'm doing mathematics all the time, or there's some sort of connection, direct connection to mathematics. And so as a result, they keep the blinders on and they walk down that sidewalk, right? They only see a mathematics-based sidewalk. And that limits them significantly to all the different types of opportunities that they could pursue with a mathematics degree. And I'm just using mathematics as a case study right now because that's my own personal educational background. But the fact is that I've heard that people change not just jobs, but careers up to 7 times in their life. They change careers up to 7 times in their life. And that doesn't show that you're being flighty. It doesn't show that you're indecisive. Especially if you plan it out and you research and you know exactly what it is you want to do. Recognize that your life, as your life changes, your decision-making processes are going to change. You're going to figure out what you know at 40 is going to be much different than what you want and needed when you were 20, and much more different than what you want and need when you're 60, 90, or 105. And that's fine. Let's embrace that. Let's recognize that as we change as individuals, our choices in terms of our careers are going to change. So we can have multiple careers. And in fact, I think people who have had multiple careers, especially diverse sets of multiple careers, have an even more rich experience because they've tasted a lot of different things. So you don't have to worry if you don't know what you want to do right now, and you don't have to worry if you don't know what you want to do at 40 or at 60 or at 90. You don't have to worry about that because most people just don't know what they want to do or what they can do or what options are open to them even later in life. And quite honestly, as a 41-year-old, did I mention I was 41? I know for those of you who've seen me, I look 20 because I have such great Botox. The thing is that as a 41-year-old, I'm making choices about what I want to do in the next 10 years, and I suspect that in the next 10 years, I might be doing something different. I suspect that there will still be an essence of career development because I just love it. I love being able to work with scientists and engineers and help you understand and articulate your value to access and find and land career opportunities for you that make sense for you. But I might be doing it in a different form. I might be doing it in a different ecosystem. You never know. So I'm going to keep my eyes open to that. So the key is to recognize that it's your life, okay? It's not your PI's life, it's not your partner's life, and it's not your mommy or your daddy's life. It's yours, so you get to make the decisions. So if you got a degree in geosciences and want to move into cupcakes, no problem, dude. I'm thrilled for you. I'm thrilled because you figured out that that's what you want to do. And most people don't know that. So if you know what you want to do, that's great. If you're thinking that you want to move into cupcakes, if you want to move into cupcake baking and open up a cupcake bakery, then we'll put together a plan to move you in that direction. And maybe after you do the tasting and the experimenting and the exploring and the planning, you realize, you know what? I don't want to do this. That's fine. You can explore other opportunities for you. But a lot of people get sidetracked in their career path and their career decisions because along that sidewalk, there are a lot of haters. There will be a lot of people on the sidewalk next to you who I call haters because they have regrets and they have very small perspectives. They have very small worldviews. And they see a bright, shiny star like you who is thinking about moving into seismology or thinking of moving into oil and gas or thinking of moving into a nonprofit that's dedicated to developing products for the developing world relating to geosciences. They see somebody who's creative and excited and energetic and passionate about life and interested to solve new problems, and they want to hate on that. They want to demolish that. They want to sort of snuff that out because they have their own regrets, because they sat at some point in their life and said, what do I want to do? Do I want to do geosciences? Do I want to do cupcakes? Do I want to do oil and gas? Do I want to work in New Jersey? And at some point they let life make the decision for them as opposed to them making the decision for their own life. Or they let other people choose what they should do or put them in a particular bucket and go towards a particular sidewalk. And so they have a lot of regrets. They have a lot of hatred towards themselves, and they expel that hatred towards you when they see a bright, shiny star like yourself who wants to go and do something new, who wants to go and do something diverse and interesting and creative and unusual and innovative, something that they would have liked to have done but didn't. You know, I noticed this for a real cemented moment for me in my life. I was applying for a job. It was an editorial position at a magazine, and the editor had held this position as the editor of this magazine for something like 20 or 25 years. I mean, they had literally been in the same office for 2 decades or more. And I thought this person was an ally of mine. I had worked with him. I had even done freelance writing for him. So when I heard that he was retiring and that the position was open, I actually reached out to him and I said, I really want to apply for your position. What do you think? And he said, that's a great idea. Go for it. And I applied for it and I got an interview, and there were 3 people in the interview room and he was one of them. And so I thought I did a pretty good job in the interview, and naturally, you know, of course, the end of the story is I didn't get the job. So then I went back to this guy who I thought was my ally, who was a champion for me. And I said, dude, what happened? Why didn't I get the job? Can you give me some feedback? Of course, I didn't call him dude. I called him by his real name. And he said, well, you know, Alaina, at some point you're going to have to decide whether you want to be a writer, a career planner, an event planner, or a professional speaker, but you can't do all 3 or all 4. You just can't do that. And I couldn't believe he actually told me, you can't. He used those words, you can't do that. He is an example of a hater. He saw somebody who was interested in many different things, in multiple topics, in multiple ecosystems, and all he saw was his own regrets in life, and therefore felt that he was going to be nasty to me and not give me the job. Now, I might not have gotten the job for other reasons too, but that moment when he said that to me, it really revealed his true colors to me, that he was a hater. So haters use very, very specific and precise language, which is how you can easily identify them. They will say, you know, you can't do X and Y, or nobody's ever done X, Y, and Z together, or, you know, I don't think you should do that because, you know, if you leave X, you're going to be considered a failure. They actually use the word failure or fail when they're talking to you, as if going into seismology and you've been studying another area of geosciences is a failure, as if going into cupcake baking, if that's what your true desire to do is a failure. That's not a failure. It's a failure for him if he didn't decide to go and pursue cupcakes 100 years ago or 10 years ago or whenever it was when he had the opportunity. So don't listen to the haters. And the most important thing is that you define your own success. So you are the writer of the only dictionary that defines your success. Only you. So how you define your success is going to be completely up to you and not others. So don't measure yourself against others. You know, I've been working recently with a lot of freshmen and sophomores in college, and they're interacting with me, and they were actually talking with me privately, and they're saying, Alaina, I'm so worried. I don't have an internship yet. I'm not ready. I'm not going to be competitive against people. I don't know what I want to do. I think I want to go into this area of science or that area of science, but you know, I'm not sure yet, and I feel really worried about this. And they're measuring themselves against other freshmen or other sophomores, or worse, they're measuring themselves against seniors or students who have graduated, people who are already in the working world, who are 5, 6, 10 years ahead of them. They're measuring themselves against that as a yardstick to decide whether or not they're successful at this point in their life. And don't do that. That's a waste of your time. Yes, you can look and see what other people are doing, and it's always important to keep an eye on your competition and keep an eye out on what other people are doing nearby, because that could give you ideas as to what you could do. Yes, it's important to get advice from seasoned professionals, people who have been out there and done it, people who are advanced in their career, because they can help you. But if this person tells you that when they were a freshman, they did a research project, when they were a sophomore, they got a Goldwater Fellowship, and then they did a research project at this lab, and then they did an internship at this company, and then they did a presidentship of this organization, and they did this, this, and this, and this, that's advice for you to take. It doesn't mean that you have to take that same path, because you might have other interests. So please do yourself a favor, and it's very hard to do, I recognize that, to not compare yourself to others along your path, because every person's career, even if they study exactly the same thing, even if they studied and got the PhD in geosciences in this sub field of geosciences, everybody's path is going to be very, very different. No two paths are exactly the same. And if you don't believe me, here's a place that you can take a look at it. I'm sure you're familiar. Maybe you're not. This might be an opportunity for you to pursue. The American Association for the Advancement of Science has a program called the Science and Technology Policy Fellowships. And I'm pretty sure that, and lots of professional organizations participate in this. And what this fellowship does is it takes scientists and engineers who have a PhD, I think for engineers, the master's degree is sufficient, and you can apply for this program where you're embedded. If you're accepted into the program, you're embedded in a government organization, in the federal government in Washington, D.C. for a year or 2 years. So you might be in the executive branch, you might be in the legislative branch, and now they've actually opened up into the judicial branch as well. And so you get a chance to see what it's like to work for the National Science Foundation or NASA or the Department of State or the Department of Health and Human Services, or in the with chief justices, or in the White House Office of Science and Technology. And so what's interesting about this is that this program has been going on for 40 years. And a few years ago, through networking actually and self-promotion, I was able to get an opportunity where I was able to write 40 articles profiling 40 former fellows, so 40 alumni of this program, one alum for each year of the program. So I wrote 40 articles about 40 program alums. And of those 40 articles, I really expected, going into that assignment, I really expected that there would be a lot of overlap, that a lot of people would be doing the same thing. Having gone and worked for the Department of State, they probably stayed in Washington and now work for the Department of State, or they work in a particular type of another branch of government. But what I found out was that interviewing 40 people over 40 years, that not a single person overlapped with anybody else. Everybody's career was absolutely diverse and absolutely divergent from another person's. So you can take a look at those articles, and if you just Google 40 @40, so 40 @40 AAAS, you'll find those articles, and you'll get a sense of what it is you can do with that program. But the point that I wanted to make is that everybody had a different career path, even though they did the same program over 40 years, and similarly, everybody's life is different than everybody else's. So very important to just make sure that you see that and not measure yourself against others. And the other reality point that I want to make to you is that while you should plan and look forward and do what you can right now to prepare you for where you want to be later, don't forget to stop and take a snapshot of this moment. Take a snapshot of mental photograph of this moment that you are enjoying. This is important for a couple of things. First of all, I want you to be in the moment. Be here now. Okay, that's not my quote, but that's a great quote. Be here now. Okay, take a note of what it is that you're doing right now that you like, and why it is that it's bringing you joy, and what it is that could maybe even be improved upon. And live in that moment, okay? And then what you can also do is, if you take that mental snapshot and then you file it in your brain somewhere, or even better yet, you write it down somewhere later. This is what I did today. This was the problem I solved today, and this is why I really enjoyed it and what I got out of it. Then it will help you start to recognize and see patterns emerge as to what it is that you actually enjoy doing. So enjoy the moment, be here now, and start using that as a tool to build connections in your brain as to what it is that you like doing. And this will be very, very helpful to you in the future. Okay, so we start with explore. We start with exploration and what it is that we can do right now to explore these different career paths that we're interested in. And what we want to do is we want to take advantage of every opportunity we possibly can. I'm going to talk to you more about that in a moment. But what I do want to tell you is, yes, you should look for prestigious opportunities, right? You should apply for this award. You should apply for this fellowship. You should apply for this internship or this research program or whatever. Or you should look for, if you're interested in working in X region or X industry, go for the top. Why not work for Google? Why not work for Amazon? Why not work for some of the big wigs, the big players? So prestige is nice, but it's not everything. So I don't want you to think, and this, I was also talking to some students recently who were saying, I go to a state university, or I went to a state university, so I'm not going to be competitive against people who went to Ivy League schools. And I can tell you that that's not the case at all. There might be some doors that open for people who have better networks or who have the prestigious name at first next to their resume or on their resume. But the reality is that more people don't go to the prestigious schools. More people don't participate in the prestigious opportunities than do. And therefore, if you are in this opportunity, if you're in this university that's not necessarily the top university on the planet, why not leverage every opportunity that's there to get the most out of it? I went to the University of Arizona. That's a state school. I had a great time. And, I had a colleague of mine, or student of mine, a peer of mine, who also went to the U of A, and she was a major in science, and she pursued every opportunity to do research, and within this first year or the second year, she got a very prestigious national fellowship dedicated to research. And then when she applied, she continued to apply for other fellowships, and she was competing against people who were going to the private universities worldwide, and she was getting these fellowships. And then when she graduated, she got graduate school fellowships that were extremely prestigious and very well funded, and she got into a very she got into a prestigious graduate school, having come from the U of A. And in fact, she worked with a Nobel Prize winner for her graduate degree. And then she ended up working for another university, and it was all based on what she leveraged and what she was able to extract out of her experience at a state university, at a university that at the time cost $900 a semester. $900 is what I paid, if you can believe that. I know it's ancient times, but it's true. And so I don't want you to be worried that, oh, I don't have the name next to my university, or I don't have the Dr. God. I didn't work with Dr. God for my graduate degree or my postdoc, or I don't work for a company right now that's necessarily known. It's not a Google, it's not a Facebook. I don't want you to worry about that. What the key is to get as much as you can out of that experience. And remember that there's value to be gained from any experience. So especially as you're exploring, if you're interested in learning about retail and consumer buying patterns and the way and customer service, why not pursue a part-time job with a retailing organization or a retail store? Why not become a barista at Starbucks? There's value to be gained from that you can leverage to get the next opportunity. And when I was in college, even though my university funds were $900 a semester, I still had to pay for things. And so of course I had to get a job. And I went and just walked around the student union at the University of Arizona until I found an application until I found a job that somebody was actually looking for to fill. And it turned out that this job, I had wanted to work in the copy shop where they made the copies because I thought that was more prestigious and kind of cool, but they didn't have any openings at the time. But right across the hall was the billiards hall, the pool hall in the basement of the student union. And I went up to them, I said, do you have any job openings? And they said, actually, we are. We're hiring somebody right now. It's the beginning of the semester. And so I applied for the position. I went and interviewed for the position, and I got it. They paid me $4.20. And by the way, when I was up for my 25-cent raise, they actually had run out of money. So I never did get my raise, but they paid me $4.20 an hour to work in the pool hall. My job was very easy. Basically, I give out the balls to the people who come up who give me money to play on the pool tables. And occasionally I clean up and wash the tables down. Occasionally I make sure people don't get into fights. We also had an arcade, believe it or not. I mean, this was truly when the dinosaurs roamed the planet. And so this job, my job title was clerk. You know, I was handling money, I was doing customer relations. But one of the perks of this job, of this little bitty, seemingly nothing job in the basement of the student union, was that I got 2 hours of free billiards a day as an employee. That was one of the perks of the job. And so I said, well, you know what, I'm going to try. I'm going to play. I've never played before in my life. And you know what? I didn't know what the heck I was doing. When I started playing and started using those free hours of pool that I had, I didn't know what end of the table to rack the balls. I didn't even know what racking the balls meant. I had no understanding or concept of the vocabulary. I didn't know what end of the cue stick to hold. I didn't know what I was doing. I was literally a novice in every sense of the word. But I really wanted to learn, and I wanted to take advantage of this free perk. So I started playing, and then I started asking people who I worked with who I knew were really good to play with me, to teach me. And I played against people who were really good and really, really strong players and talented, who just basically kicked the floor and wiped the floor with me. And over 8 or 9 months, I continued playing as much as I could. And in September, I started my job in January. In September, there was a pool tournament on the campus, and I decided, what the heck, I'm going to enter it for fun. And what happened? I took third place. I took third place, and they gave me a trophy. I won. And after that, I continued playing and continued learning and continued gaining skill in it. And then after a while, I started representing the U of A in collegiate tournaments in Denver, in Colorado, in Utah. And I was doing pretty good there. And then about a year later after that, I did the same pool tournament that I had took third place in, and this time I won it. I took first place. And the person who was running the pool tournament was this guy who would do training of celebrities on how to do billiards in Hollywood. So when celebrities were doing trick shots and jump shots and doing pool in movies, they called this guy in to train them and coach them. So he was the one who was doing the tournament, and he actually gave me the name Lady Dynamite. So that was my pool shark name, Lady Dynamite, spelled just like that. Did I get any career opportunities from that? No. Could I have? I might have. I could have possibly continued with it. But the value that I gained from that experience was just totally extraordinary. I learned that if I worked hard enough on something that I could succeed. Maybe I don't succeed every time, but I learned that if I could succeed, I learned that I could be good at a sport. I was never good at any sport. I learned I could be good at a sport. I learned about geometry. I learned how I could use certain skills to solve the problem and how I could plan ahead. Because every time you play pool, it's about planning ahead. What's the next shot going to lead to in the next shot? And how are you going to set yourself up for 2 shots and 3 shots and 4 shots later? So I learned about planning. And all of this experience gave me knowledge about myself as a worker, as a problem solver, and it gave me a diversity, right? There aren't that many women pool players who are champions. So did I promote that on my resume? Did I tell people about that? Heck yes, I did, because it distinguished me from the competition. So that pool experience gave me so much value, and yet here I was, a clerk. That was my job. And, you know, being a clerk, I also gained business experience, which I talked about in my resume and in my interviews, and got me job opportunities too. So I want you to be aware of that. Not necessarily to go for the prestige, although that can be useful, but to look for opportunities where you can gain value from any experience. So be aware of what playgrounds do you enjoy playing in, what toys do you enjoy playing with, and where could we potentially take this next, okay? Now, we always start with what we enjoy. If we want to go forward, we have to start with what we enjoy, okay? So we're going to think about what tasks do we do right now that we enjoy. And maybe these are tasks that we're doing. If we're early in our career, maybe it's tasks that we're doing in classes or in projects or internships. If we're in mid-career, it's maybe tasks that we're doing in our job or in volunteer activities or in other types of extracurricular activities in the community. If we're later in our career, it might be opportunities that we're pursuing in leadership positions or also in volunteering and philanthropic endeavors. But what tasks do we actually enjoy? What projects do we enjoy? What skills do we enjoy using most? What experiences do bring us pleasure? What problems that we've tackled did we enjoy solving? What were the methodologies that we used to solve those problems that we enjoyed endeavoring with? What organizations have brought us joy? What sort of teams? How are they organized? How do they function? What types of ecosystems? What type of geographies? And what we're going to do as we think about these different experiences is we're going to ask ourselves who, what, when, where, and how. What exactly is fun about this task, this project, this team? Why is this fun? How is this fun? When is this fun? Is it fun at the beginning of the project? Is it fun at the middle of the project? Is it fun the moment that the project is done and you can have a cigarette because you're completely finished and you can just relax? Or is it fun throughout the entire process? Or is it fun in the planning phase? Like, is that where you really get the joy? Where is this fun? Is it fun in the team environment? Is it fun where you're doing the work by yourself? Is it fun because you're working in New Jersey, because you really love New Jersey, especially Exit 8, where I come from? Or maybe is it fun because you're in another area? Is it fun in this part of the company or this part of the organization or this part of the community? Can this fun be duplicated in another setting, time, and place? Or is this a moment in time that cannot be duplicated? And chances are it can be duplicated in another form and fashion, and that's what you want to keep your eyes out. And most importantly, who can give me information about how this fun can be transitioned into a career and job? This is about the networking aspect of this whole planning process, of this whole strategy, and this is where we really want to sink our teeth into it. Now, the key is if you enjoy something, seek out opportunities to do more of it on a higher level with more responsibility, where the stakes are higher, the challenges are higher, where you're using higher level skills, where you can improve your skills, and also where there's a greater spotlight on you. And I guarantee you that this is going to bring you more opportunities. And so, case study, Alaina and the Society of Physics students. So my degree is in mathematics, as I mentioned, but I started off at the U of A in physics and astronomy because I was certain I wanted to be an astrophysicist. And yes, I was seduced by the dark side. I got my degree in mathematics. But as you probably know, physics is like the Godfather. And once you are in, you can't get out. And so even though I switched my major, I still physically, literally, and figuratively stayed in physics. I stayed in the department. I did outreach. I did research in physics. And I was active in the Society of Physics Students. And then in my senior year, I was president of the Society of Physics Students. And what I did with SPS, I just did things that were natural to me and that I enjoyed doing. So, for example, I liked being the leader. I liked organizing events. I liked training people. I liked helping problems and programs and projects come to light. And I remember that when I was a student at the University of Arizona, and they still have this, there was a student-run carnival every year. And this carnival was basically meant for the different clubs on campus to be able to raise money. So we could actually have a booth at the carnival and then maybe sell food or something else, and that would be our way of raising money for the year. And so I was really excited about SPS being involved in that carnival, so I went all out. I went and worked with a local vendor. I created a contract to make sure what that vendor would get out of it and what we would get out of it. I created training opportunities for people to learn how they would work at the booth and the safety issues associated with handling food at the booth. I did all the promotion. I designed the banner and the booth signage. I did all the paperwork and all the logistics support. I did all the scheduling. I did all of that stuff, and I did it. Yes, I wanted to see SPS be successful. Yes, I wanted to see my fellow physics and math and nerds, students, be successful. But I also did it because I loved doing it. I just loved organizing things. So I just did that. And the more I did it, the better I got at it, the more I learned about what I could do better with it. And the more I started to realize that basically what I was doing, a real big sense of what I was doing, was public relations. what I was doing was public relations, and in this case it was science public relations and science communications for a science organization. And that's when I started to realize that this is something that people will pay you to do. This is actually a skill and a profession that people recruit people for, that people look for people to solve problems in. And as I was graduating, because I had gotten this SPS position and because I was very well known in the department, my senior year I also worked in the department. I worked as the assistant to the director of communications in the physics department, and I was helping her with public relations skills, and that's also where I started to realize that this was a job. And as I was graduating that December, I was looking for opportunities, I was looking for jobs, and right about that time is when my boss, the director of communications, quit and left for another job in another state, and suddenly her job was open. And I realized, this is what I like to do. Why don't I apply for this position? And I ended up getting the job. And to be honest with you, there was other people who applied for this position. This was an advertised job. Other people applied who had more qualifications, who had more skills, more years of experience, but my boss, the department head of the physics department, gave me the job. He took a chance on me because he knew me. He knew my work. I was a known quantity to him, and because I had been so active in the physics department, he knew that I'd be able to jump in immediately with very little downtime to learn the lay of the land. He took a chance on me, and it changed my life. I took the job, and it really altered the course of my life. And it all is because it goes back to I loved doing this. I wanted to do more of it, and I wanted to do it on a larger field. I wanted to do it on a higher stage, on a more spotlighted stage. And because I did all these skills and because I did all these projects, it made me known, and therefore when the opportunity came up, I was able to apply for it and get it. So this is what you want to do. If you see something and you enjoy it, do more of it. Now look for options that are afforded to you now in time and space. So I'm going to walk you through a couple of lists that you can take a look at. And be aware, I'm going to start with, there's 3 lists here. I'm going to have a list for people who are in school right now, both college, undergrad, as well as grad school, people who are doing their postdoc, because I know many of you are, and the people who are beyond school. And each list builds on the next. So you can pull things from all of these lists and be able to access them and use this as part of your list and planning as you go forward. So it doesn't necessarily mean just because you're not in college, maybe you are, well into your career, maybe you're 20 years into your career, it doesn't mean that some of the things on this first list you can't do right now to take advantage of, to start planning and exploring what you might want to do next. But certainly while you were in college and while you're in graduate school, you should seek and join opportunities, join clubs, and then seek leadership opportunities in those clubs. You should seek to volunteer in your community and take classes for fun, classes that will bring you joy, classes that seemingly have nothing to do with your major, like ceramics. If you love ceramics or if you're interested in ceramics, why shouldn't you take ceramics? That's afforded you right now in time and space. You're on the campus, take that class. Or if it's something outside your major, maybe you're studying geosciences, but you're really interested in biosciences. Well, take a biology class. Why not? You might end up going into geobiology or biogeology, which is a big thing right now, especially as we study the bottom of the ocean. That's big, big subject. So why not take a class outside your major? Take classes for skill building. One of the biggest regrets I have from my college years is not taking a literature class. I placed out of it because I had advanced placement credits and blah, blah, blah in English computation. So I didn't have to take a literature class at my university, which I think was a mistake on the university's part, and it certainly was my mistake for not pursuing that, because it would have made me a better writer sooner, and it would give me a lot of context in my writing and also in my reading comprehension. So I really am sorry that I didn't take literature. So take classes that give you skills, that give you new skills, such as writing, such as speaking, such as other types of problem solving, project classes, design classes, troubleshooting classes, testing classes, things like that, especially in engineering. Do activities such as sports and arts and clubs that bring you joy. If you're interested in, comics, then join the comic club, okay? Go to the Comic-Con. Do that, okay? Attend colloquia in your department, outside of your department, and don't just attend and walk away, but go up and introduce yourself to the speaker. Ask the department if you can join the speaker for dinner. Sometimes they'll let you do that, and certainly why not ask for the opportunity? Most students, both in grad and undergrad, don't pursue that. Make yourself known to your home department. Go and ask for an appointment with the department head, let them know where you are in your career, and maybe ask their advice about what you could do next if you wanted to move forward in this particular area. Apply for awards and fellowships both within the context of the university and outside. See if you can pursue a diverse experience, meaning a study abroad experience or a project or a study experience at another institution to give you a different perspective, and also seek out and network with alumni so that you can get to know what are your other options. Beyond that, if you're a postdoc, you're going to do those things, but then you could also start going to conferences strategically. In other words, I've been talking a lot in other webinars about how to attend conferences strategically, reach out to speakers in advance, make coffee appointments, make your plan, make a plan for going to the poster farm, make a plan for going to the business meetings, see if you can join committees, volunteer at the conference, get to know people so that you can get them to know you as well. Attend talks and colloquy in your department and way beyond your department. Look for events, conferences, and workshops in your community. And by community here, I mean both the region that you're physically located in as well as your professional community, right? Like AGU. When AGU has the fall meeting, you go to the fall meeting. When AGU has other related conferences, go to those conferences. When there's a geobiology event that's happening, or maybe a workshop or a planning a meeting or a meeting where you get a real chance to learn certain skills, take advantage of that. Look to plan workshops and special events so that you can get to know the players in the field so they get to know you. So you get that experience of what it's like to put on a conference. When traveling, volunteer to give talks at other universities and other institutions. Reach out to alumni groups in that area and professional associations in that area. Make yourself known. Network with alums, professional associations. Use LinkedIn effectively and sufficiently. Continue to do activities that feed your soul, like arts and sports and other things. Continue to apply for awards and fellowships, both regional, meaning in your regional geographic area, business. A lot of scientists and engineers don't think to apply for, like, for example, most communities in the United States in particular have a 40 under 40 business award. Most scientists and engineers don't think to apply for that. Well, guess what? If you're under 40 years old, you can apply for that. And why not get on that list? Why not have that on your resume? Why not have that experience? Could lead to networking opportunities, not to mention it's a credential that you can put on your record. So, and then also apply for awards and fellowships within your profession. And then volunteer for professional association committees. As a member of AGU, that is one of the benefits that you have. You can apply and volunteer for professional association committees within AGU. And if you're beyond graduation, you're going to do all those other things, but you're going to do some other things too. You're going to get even more involved in your professional association. You're going to seek leadership opportunities if you can. I'm suggesting that you volunteer more in your community so you can get to know more people, you can network more effectively, get to know more networks, get access to more hidden opportunities, and also gain more skills in the areas that you want to go into. I mentioned take on more leadership roles, not just within your professional association, but even within your institution if you have one. Write blogs, articles, op-eds locally for professional publications and beyond. Network with alums, leaders in your professional association, leaders in your profession. Seek opportunities to build a trail, to build a digital and a record, a digital trail and a record of your expertise. And by this time, beyond graduation, I want you to start being clear about what your needs are in your life and what your wants are, because needs and wants are often different, right? I might need to be a professional speaker, right? That feeds my soul. I can't live without speaking, right? But I may want to be a professional speaker in a particular organization or be a professional speaker on a particular topic. Or I may want to work in oil and gas, but I may need to live in New Jersey because my family is there, or because that's where I want to build my life. I need to be in New Jersey. That's non-negotiable. So be aware of what your needs are and your wants are. And what I've found is that the older that I get, the more clear my needs and wants become, the more clearly I'm able to separate the two. And interestingly, and this goes back to a point that I made earlier, the needs and the wants change. They are dynamic. But I'm more able to more quickly notice when my needs and wants change and be dynamic enough in my behavior and my assessment of myself to strategize as my needs and wants change and to note, that's changing. Why is that changing? Is this becoming a want as opposed to a need? Is this becoming a need as opposed to a want? I'm able to see that better, and I find that that has come with age, and that is something that you'll get as you get older and you get more wiser, right? And then, of course, go to regional, national, international meetings where your profession or your chosen profession or the profession that you want to go into congregates. We're going to also be doing a lot of what I call high impact networking. And many of you have heard me talk about this, so I don't want to go into too much detail here, but let me just give you a quick definition. So when I talk about networking, what I'm talking about is a spectrum of activities that starts with that first point of contact and aims for a value exchange between you and me, where we're exchanging value in myriad ways and fashions and formats over time, and it builds a win-win. It is all about the mutual beneficial aspect. We're trying to build a mutually beneficial relationship between the two of us. People who go into networking thinking, I want to get something from you, aren't successful with the networking. But people who go into networking thinking, I want to see what I can do for that other person. Maybe there's something I can do to contribute value to their team in a unique way. Maybe there's something that I can do to help them in a singular fashion that nobody else has done. I want to explore that with them. When you look at what can I do for you as opposed to what you can do for me, the reality is that you actually get things back to you because you are building a win-win. And networking is the only way to access hidden opportunities that either don't exist or just opened or aren't advertised, or that you want to create yourself, or as well as access decision makers for both advertised and unadvertised for positions, and accessing people who know the decision makers for the opportunities that you want. So when we engage in high impact networking, what we're looking for are networking nodes, and a node is defined as anything that can bring together a large quantity of people in the same area. In other words, like-minded people. So a node could be a person, it could be a place, it could be a conference, it could be a society, it could be an event, it could be a lot of different things. It could be a LinkedIn group, but we're going to look for networking nodes because that's where we're going to actually be able to access people. And we're going to ask our trusted mentors for referrals. We're going to seek out alumni and friends. That's where we'll always start with people who we know, right? Just like we start with what we like in terms of our career planning, when we start with our networking plan, we start with who we know. And we're going to look in directories. You have access to the professional directory of your professional society, like, I don't know, AGU. So go through the directory and look for people who are working in areas or in subjects or in ecosystems that are of interest to you. And also take advantage of industry clusters. And an industry cluster is a critical mass of companies in a like-minded industry in the same region. So for example, Silicon Valley, that's an example of an industry cluster because of all the computing-related companies that are there. Biotech in the Bay Area, biotech in San Diego, biotech in Boston, pharmaceuticals in New Jersey, oil and gas in Houston. Those are all examples of industry clusters. And we're aiming for a win-win on the whole spectrum, long-term and short-term, and it's what I can do for you. What are the problems that I could potentially solve for you? So what we're doing is we're going to be asking for either informational interviews or informal conversations. Both of those phrases are basically the same, and it shows them that you want to build that mutually beneficial alliance, and you're going to ask them what types of opportunities might be available for somebody like me. You know, I'm excited about your company because of what you've been doing with X and Y. What kinds of projects are you involved in X and Y? How can I best prepare for an opportunity at your company or in your region or in your industry? How can I position myself for success here right now? What skills do you look for or don't often see in candidates? These are the types of things that you'll ask. So we've done the exploration part. Now we're going to do the tasting part, right? And so what we're doing here is we're going to engage in our diverse passions, skills, and interests. And we want to join, and this is a really important thing that you can do, join a local nonprofit. And I say a local it doesn't necessarily mean having to be local to your geographic area, although that's helpful. But if you're in an area, like for example, let's say you live in a rural area and there aren't a lot of nonprofits, that's fine. You could join a nonprofit, you could join an association, you could join a committee on AGU, and you'd still get the same type of experiences that I'm talking about out of it. But what I found is many years ago, I wanted to learn more about public relations and science public relations, and so I reached out to the local science fair in Tucson, Arizona, where I live, and I volunteered to help them with public relations. And I worked for them for a year as a volunteer, and it gave me so many great experiences, such great knowledge, new opportunities to learn new skills, to solidify skills, to advance my career. I got an opportunity to write a speech for the local congressman in the area, which I never would have gotten at that point in my career if I hadn't been in that moment. I got a chance to travel to the International Science Fair and represent Southern Arizona at that event, which was great. I met a number of different Nobel Prize winners and editors of magazines that got me thinking about career paths. That local nonprofit that I participated in gave me all these things. It gave me skills, knowledge, new contacts, understanding of the ecosystems, and it even spotlighted me. It put a spotlight on me for decision makers to see how I work, to see what kind of a success I could be in their organization. And it helped me to open new doors and to know what it is that I like to do in other ecosystems and what I don't like to do. So I do encourage you to indulge in those diverse passions, because even joining a nonprofit that might have nothing to do with science, you will gain experience that will help you. So we want to establish that record, and I mentioned that to you earlier about establishing a record of your brand, which is your promise of value, your expertise, your knowledge, your experience, your skills. And what we want to do with this is it's helping us to be acquainted with the community and helping the community to acquaint themselves with us. So they would be thinking about us for hidden opportunities. So we're going to look for opportunities where we can speak, and not just at conferences, but also regionally based chapters, local business organizations, mixers. We're going to look to write both maybe for the association newsletter, for the campus newspaper, for the local newspaper, for blogs, publications related to your field. We're going to volunteer, as I mentioned, for committees, for philanthropic endeavors. Hey, why not volunteer to drive the colloquium speaker to the airport? You get that face time. And while traveling, we're going to see what we can to extend our brand and solidify and really crystallize our brand in the minds of decision makers. So we're going to volunteer to give talks at our alma mater, attend alumni mixers, and so on and so forth. And now we're going to move into the experimental phase of our strategy. And this is where you get to see, what can I try right now? What are the opportunities that I can apply for right now? What are the local leadership programs that I can join? You know, in the United States, major cities, and I bet you that this is the case around the world, major cities often have leadership programs to help the emerging leaders or people who want to gain stronger leadership skills. And in Tucson, we have something called Greater Tucson Leadership, and you apply for this. It's a nonprofit organization. You apply for it. If you're accepted into the program, you go through like a year or a semester's worth of classes that you take, and it gives you information about how you can be a stronger civic leader in the community, how you can be a stronger, more knowledgeable leader in your enterprise, or even become an entrepreneur. So this is similar to what I've seen around the United States and in other cities around the world too. So look for those local leadership programs. Are there projects that I can ask to join right now, perhaps in other ecosystems or in other industries? Do you see a job that's advertised? Why not apply for it? Yes, I'm all about networking and getting access to unadvertised positions and getting access to hidden opportunities. But what you really want to do is also keep your options open for other things, such as advertised jobs. So if you see a job that sounds really awesome and that's something that you think you can do, apply for it. If you see an opportunity, go for it. And if you can, connect in advance with somebody at that organization so they know that you're going to be joining. They know that you're going to be applying for it. And if you don't get the opportunity, or as you're seeking the opportunity, ask for feedback. See what you can do to improve so that you can move forward in the way that you want to be. As you're experimenting, what you want to be thinking about in your mind is the following. Excuse me. This is the metaphor. Do I want to be an actor, or do I want to be a famous actor? So this is how you think about this. An actor, somebody who performs in plays. If they are asked, do you want to be an actor or do you want to be a famous actor? If they want to be an actor, then they won't care whether or not they're performing on a stage with 2 people in the audience, because they are performing. That's all that's important to them. They are pursuing their craft. They are improving their craft. They are communicating arts and their love of the craft of performing and art and acting to a community, and it doesn't matter if there's 2 people in the audience or 20 or 200. That means nothing to them. The fact is that they're getting pleasure from being an actor. Of course, the other side of this is, do you want to be a famous actor? Do you want to be a celebrity? Do you want to be a movie star? That's a different animal altogether. So what I want you to be asking yourself is, do I want to be a geologist? Do I want to be a cupcake baker? Do I want to be an actor? Do I want to be a scientist? Or do I want to be a famous scientist? Do I want to be a famous cupcake baker? Do I want to be a famous geologist? And if the two are different, then you can start thinking about what it is truly that you want to do. Because some people truly only want to be a famous actor. That is their goal. That is their need. That is their want. Where other people just want to be an actor. And if that's the case, even if you can't find a job where somebody pays you to do X, if you are doing X as not a vocation, but as a side project, then you're still going to find joy from it, and you could potentially build a career out of it later. And that's what we want to be aware of. So do you want to be a celebrity in your field, or do you want to just do your field, do your profession? We want to celebrate and communicate our diversity, because what makes us unique will separate us from the competition and will get us opportunities and help us solve problems in unique ways that other people will note, and will help us, in doing so, when they note this, they'll see that we would potentially be somebody who could help them. So if you have some diversity associated with you, celebrate that. Identify that, communicate that, identify what your unique value is that only you can provide because of your unique skills or experience or worldview or perspective or background or knowledge or anything. You know, having a math degree, there are a lot of math majors, but there aren't as many math majors who get a second degree in anthropology, which I have. There also aren't as many math majors who have a second degree in anthropology who studied abroad in Cairo and studied the ancient Egyptian number theory by looking at papyri, that were written by ancient Egyptians who wrote out number theory. I actually did that. Okay, there aren't many people out there who do that, who also play pool. Don't forget about that. You're talking about Lady Dynamite here. Okay, so that diversity that I have has served me very, very well, because it uniquely positions me. It distinguishes me from the community. And you know, I mentioned the fact that I got that I got that award for my billiards playing many years ago. I left that award on my resume for many years, and I even positioned white space around it on my resume very strategically, so that if you just quickly browsed through my resume, you would not be able to see, you would not be able to help but see that I had won this billiards tournament. And I can't tell you how many people just stopped and suddenly said, wait a second, what? You won a billiards tournament? Wait a second. You went to Cairo on a fellowship? Wait a second, you speak Arabic? Wait a second, you're also doing math? Explain to me, what's going on with this? So this diversity can serve you well. It can distinguish you from the competition. But the caveat to this is that there will be haters who will walk down the path with you, who will say, wait, nobody's ever studied math and anthropology before. That's an interesting combination. That's actually a quote that I got from a lot of people. Math and anthro, that's kind of weird. That's kind of interesting. What are you going to do with that? Well, I found a way to do something very interesting with that. I studied the mathematics of the ancient Egyptians. I used my mathematical knowledge to do projects associated with the history of mathematics. I love doing it. The other thing you want to be doing, in addition to identifying your diversity, is seeing what you can do to monetize your passion. So yes, it'd be great to do X is a side project. It'd be great to do X as a volunteer because you want to be an actor, not a famous actor, but we all got to get paid at the end of the day. So we want to see how we could potentially turn that passion into a job, a career, a company. That's where the entrepreneurial side of all of this really comes into play. So one thing that we can do to start thinking about whether this passion that we have can be monetized, can be turned into a job, is we want to do keyword searches on LinkedIn and other platforms to find people who have similar backgrounds, who have a geology background and do cupcake baking, or have a seismology background and work for oil and gas, or have a seismology background and work for pharmaceutical companies. And we want to reach out to them and ask them for informational interviews and let them know that we're looking to go into this area, and you want to see what you can do to help them, right? Because that's the win-win, and you want to see what it is that you can do to position yourself for success right now. We're going to do Google News searches on those keywords. We're going to look for and read publications that center around this chosen area, and we're going to join and be active on message boards, Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, and so on and so forth, so that we can make sure to find out where we could potentially go and how we could potentially create this into a job, okay? Now the planning part is we're going to make a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C, and each of these plans is going to be based on our needs and our wants and based on giving us backup plans, right? So our plan A is going to be for the industry that we need or want, and the career and the job that you want, and the geographic regions that you may want or need to be in. Plan B is going to be for an industry where you could also be successful, for another type of career or job where you could be productive and happy, just in case plan A doesn't lead to a job, or another region where you could live your life. And I do mean that in the full extent of it. Where could you be happy? Where could you fully live and enjoy your life? And plan C would be another backup plan for other opportunities where you could be successful. The components of the plan include the following three sections: a networking plan, a research plan, and an entry plan. So the networking plan is going to give us access to decision makers and make us known to decision makers and give us information about where we can go. And what I like to do is I always start when I'm talking about networking, how do you begin? How many people should you be emailing a month? I always say start with N equals 10. So start with 10 cold emails each month. That's a pretty manageable number. And if you find that you can add to that and do 15 cold emails a month, that's fine. The reason I start with 10 is because the reality is if you send out 10 cold emails to people that maybe you meet through the AGU membership directory or through LinkedIn or through a conference or what have you, and you ask for informational interviews, not all 10 are going to respond. Maybe 5 will respond or respond right away, so you'll have 5 meetings. So 5 meetings in 1 month, that's a manageable number to do, especially if you're already working. If you could increase it if you have more time, and you'll change it depending on what you're doing each month, but start with N equals 10. And of course, everybody that you speak to, you always ask, who else should I be talking to about this? The research plan is going to consist of researching who, what, where, how, when, and why would I be able to do this? And so we're going to set up Google alerts to allow us to think about where we could do what we want to do, why we could do it, how we could do it, where we could do it. We're going to be reviewing written and spoken content on the web, meaning articles, journal articles, as well as articles in the popular press, videos, pictures, other types of content. We're going to look to see what jobs are advertised and what jobs are advertised, what are the ways that people are getting those jobs, where are they actually applying for those jobs. Are they applying through a website? Are they applying through a particular organization? I'm going to post my resume in certain places where decision makers are looking. For example, the AGU Career Center Resume Bank. I know can tell you for a fact that decision makers regularly look through that resume bank specifically to look for people to invite to apply for unadvertised jobs. I know that for a fact because I have talked to people who have had that happen to them, where they have been emailed by a decision maker at a company and said, I found your resume on the AGU resume bank. Would you be interested in talking to me about applying for this job that we're going to be advertising, or applying for this job that we're not going to be advertising? Your background is a match. So I'm going to put myself and position myself in places where I could be found. And then the entry plan, which is the self-promotion plan, is me communicating my brand to people in the field. So how can I establish myself in this field? How can I establish myself as a contributor to this field? How can I establish myself as a leader in this field? And that goes back to the speaking, the writing, of course, networking is heavily involved in that. So you see there's a lot of overlap and Venn diagrams with all these plans. But this is the idea. And then we're just going to freaking do it. After we do the exploration, after we do the strategizing, after we do the exploration, the tasting, the experimenting, and the planning, we are going to freaking do it because life is freaking short, ladies and gentlemen, as you probably know. I know this because I'm now old, as I've mentioned. And I realize that as a 41-year-old, in 10 years, I will be 51. And then in 20 years, I'll be 61. Therefore, I have precious few moments where I can really enjoy myself. A 20-year-old doesn't necessarily understand that. But I want you to be aware that life is short. So if I want to do X, I'm going to start doing it. So we're going to plan, yes. We're going to research, yes. We're going to seek to understand the consequences of our actions. If we decide to move out of geosciences at this point and open up a bakery, what are the consequences? What are the ramifications associated with that decision? Yes, I'm going to understand that. But then I'm going to make my decision to actually do it. Because if I don't do it now, then when am I going to do it? So we're going to take note of what I like to do and what I don't like to do. You're going to have a backup plan. You're going to have a couple of backup plans. So if this doesn't work out, you can always move back. And by the way, never, ever, ever sever ties. If you're moving careers, if you're changing complete directions and going into a completely different profession, never, ever sever ties with the original profession. Stay in contact with them. Even if you're doing something different, you never know how you both can help each other in the future. You're going to be opening up a cupcake bakery. Well, guess what? I guarantee you that there are geoscientists who love to eat cupcakes. They want to eat cupcakes. They could be your potential customers. You never know, okay? But the reality is you might choose to go into geosciences later on or go move back into geosciences later on, in which case you want to keep those networks of contacts open and flowing continuously. So continue networking, continue skill building, self-promotion, opportunity identification. Take advantage of this moment in time and space to do what it is that you want to do. Recognize you're not locked in. If you do make this choice and in 2 years it doesn't work out or it's not what you expected it, even with all your planning, exploration, experimenting, that's fine because you've been keeping the networks open. You could potentially go back or you could choose something else. And remember that the future is not written. If you make this choice, it's your future and you can choose to do whatever you want. But the bottom line is that you must do what brings you joy. That is what is most important in life. Because if you don't, if you stay in a job or a career or an ecosystem or an organization where you are not feeling joy, under no circumstances, there's nothing you can do to change it, and you've tried it, you're not feeling joy, you're not feeding your soul, you're going to be unproductive, and quite frankly, at some point you will be fired. You will have to leave the organization in some sort of negative way, either personally negative to you or potentially negative to your reputation. And we don't want that to happen. So we're going to pursue opportunities that bring us joy because that's what's most important, and that's what's going to feed our soul, nurture our soul, and that's also what's going to keep our eyes open and our mind open to the next opportunity 5, 10, 20 years down the road. So with that, I want to thank you so much. I'm so excited for you. You're just attending this webinar shows me that you're open to new ideas for yourself, and this is great. Be aware that I'm going to be doing a bunch of other webinars for AGU throughout the year. In fact, the next one's coming up on June 16th. I'm going to be talking about science communications careers, all sorts of different ways of getting into science communications, how to do it, how to prepare for it, what you can do. And then in the future, in September and October, I'll be speaking about research projects and mentor-protege relationships. So stay tuned because we're going to be doing that. Now with that, I want to thank you so much. This was an honor and a privilege to be able to present this webinar today. Thank you, AGU Career Center, for your support of this endeavor. Thank you for your kind attention. This concludes the formal part of the webinar, but I'm going to stick around for any last-minute questions. And also, I will be putting together an article that will appear on the AGU Career Center website with answering other questions that came from this webinar or answering, giving you information about other topics relating to this particular topic. So stay tuned for that as well. And if you want to email me, I'd be happy to send you a free resume template and give you some more career development information. Go for it. You rock. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.